My name is Jodi Alatalo. I am a faculty member at Bay Path University in the Reading and Literacy degree program. I teach a course entitled Reading and Writing Assessment. Today, I look forward to presenting The Words We Say Are Made of Sounds, Phonological and Phonemic Awareness, Strengthening the Foundation for Skilled Reading. I'll begin by telling you a bit about myself. I hold a bachelor's degree in sociology from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, a master's degree in reading from Westfield State University, and EdS from Bay Path. I have worked in the field of education for over 20 years as a classroom teacher, reading specialist, literacy coordinator, and instructional coach. For today's webinar, I'd like to provide you with a framework for understanding the components of skilled reading. I'd like to define phonological and phonemic awareness. I'll provide an opportunity for you to observe direct instruction and supported practice in phonological and phonemic awareness. I'll provide an evidence-based claim that instruction in phonological and phonemic awareness strengthens reading development overall. And I'll connect back to a simple view and Scarborough's reading rope as we do this work together. Sound awareness is a foundational skill for reading success. Therefore, we'll explore this topic together in light of the process for emergent and developing readers. Let's begin with two constructs that will help build your understanding of the reading process. Hollis Scarborough's reading rope is a metaphor for the interwoven processes required for skilled reading. The rope is first split into two subsections: language comprehension and word recognition. I'll pause for a moment and direct your attention to the left side of my screen, which is the work of Goff and Tunmer called the Simple View. Simply stated, reading comprehension is the product of language comprehension and word recognition. Therefore, if a student is lacking either language comprehension or word recognition, reading comprehension is impacted. Mathematically, if either language comprehension or word recognition are 0, the product or outcome must also be 0. So we can see that both areas of Scarborough's rope must be strengthened for a student to become a skilled reader, with the end goal being deep comprehension of written text. When we look more closely at Scarborough's rope, it's possible to see that the sub-areas include individual strands or skills required for skilled reading. Language comprehension includes background knowledge, vocabulary knowledge, knowledge of text structures, verbal reasoning, as well as knowledge of genre. The word recognition strands include the foundational skills of phonological and phonemic awareness, decoding ability, sight recognition, which is the automaticity one has when reading words. These strands are tightly woven together for skilled reading. Scarborough's rope demonstrates that both automaticity and strategic integration of these skills are requisite. For this webinar, we are going to zoom into the word recognition portion of the rope and look closely at the strands within phonological awareness. It's important to bring your awareness to the publication of recommendations in the year 2000 by the National Reading Panel, commissioned by President George Bush and Congress in 1997. The panel's task was to assess the status of research-based knowledge, including the effectiveness of various approaches to teaching children to read. And that comes directly from the National Reading Panel report. To do so, a panel of experts methodically sifted through and analyzed decades of research. The outcome of this extensive process centered around 5 topics: phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, fluency, and comprehension. The outcome was a comprehensive set of recommendations for instruction in reading. The panel's instructional recommendations were published and disseminated to educators across the nation. All 5 pillars of instruction are required for students to become skilled readers. Today, we're going to look closely at phonemic awareness, requisite for automatic word reading. The English written language, or English orthography, is a code based on sounds and units of meaning. There are 26 letters, there are 44 sounds, and hundreds of ways to spell those sounds. The English language is an opaque language due to its inconsistency within its orthography. Still, the English language is a code-based system. Therefore, it should be taught as such. To do so, students must first be instructed in sound awareness. David Kilpatrick writes that researchers now estimate that 95% of all children can be taught to read by the end of first grade. 95%. With future achievement constrained only by a student's reasoning and listening comprehension abilities. The code can be taught to 95% of all children so that they can be taught to read. That's powerful. That brings us to our first big idea. Despite all of the many facets of reading, there is a simple idea that the words we say are made of sounds. So bringing awareness to the units of sound within a spoken language is called phonological awareness. The graphemes PH represent the phoneme F in Greek, which stands for sound or voice. Phonological awareness is the awareness of the sound structure of spoken language. Phonological awareness includes phonemic awareness, or the ability to recognize the individual sounds or phonemes in spoken language. Why is this important for reading? We have a code-based language. All of the jargon related to reading process includes the concept of sound. So concept of sound is vital to our instruction. This year, when I stepped in to a kindergarten class to do some coaching, I told the 5-year-olds that their words were made of sounds. Those eyes widened. They were shocked. They had no idea. They even loved the lesson more when I brought out mirrors for them to look at their mouths as they observed the positions as they were making those individual speech sounds. My objective was to introduce them to sound awareness, the foundation on which sound-to-symbol correspondences, or letter-sound matching, is built. Let's take a look at a continuum that will help us better understand the sound system. Most children enter school with some degree of awareness of large units of sound, such as words that rhyme, or even awareness of the syllable. Some children enter kindergarten knowing how to read. Still, they have yet to be taught the relationship between speech and print. As teachers of young children, early readers, or struggling readers, we know that having phonological awareness prepares the brain to read. When a student moves from larger units of sound to smaller units of sound, they can more readily make those matches for application in reading and spelling. David Kilpatrick, expert on phonemic awareness, argues that simple blending and segmenting isn't sufficient, but instruction should progress from simple to complex to include phonemic awareness tasks such as manipulation and substitution. When instructing students in phonemic awareness, students are not provided with letters, nor are they asked to write letters to match the sounds. When letters enter the picture, the instruction becomes phonics instruction. Phonemic awareness is learned with the lights off, meaning that there's no visual input for the learner. There is simply auditory engagement. Still, you can see on the screen that I have created a visual support or scaffold for this instruction. This is an Elkin box, and I have added some virtual manipulatives. The Elkin box is a visual tool for helping students segment or break apart the sounds in spoken language. The box you see has 4 spaces for 4 sounds or phonemes. Each word we work with for this exercise has 4 phonemes. We'll begin with simple, we'll move to the complex along the continuum. I will model how to use the virtual manipulatives to start by segmenting the word. Watch and listen as I segment or break up the sounds in the word snack. I will slide each counter as I segment. Snack. Snack. Let's try one together. The word is flap. Say flap. Segment flap. Very good. Watch and listen as I delete or take away the first sound in the word flap. Flap. Without is lap. Let's try one together. The new word is slam. Say slam. Let's segment slam. Slam without s is lamb. Now, let's try one more task, a more sophisticated task. We're going to substitute the first sound. The word will be the word moon. Watch and listen as I substitute the first sound in the word moon. Moon. Ooh. You'll notice there's 3 sounds in the word moon. 3 boxes because 3 sounds. The word moon, when I take away the and I substitute it with I get noon. Let's try this again. Let's try this one together. Let's say the word clap. Now, say clap, but change the first sound from k to f. Flap. Again, it's important for students to be provided with immediate corrective feedback. Phoneme manipulation can be really difficult. Therefore, the Elkin boxes should be provided as a temporary scaffold. We want to build accuracy and automaticity with these auditory sound manipulation skills. But once a student becomes more automatic, the boxes are no longer needed. In the classroom setting, instruction in phonemic awareness should include tactile, kinesthetic experiences. For children who struggle with processing the sounds in spoken language, it's vital to engage the tactile or the touch sense, to really engage all senses, visual, auditory, and tactile kinesthetic. That supports that kind of forging of the neural pathways in the brain so that students can start to begin to become more automatic with this work. So phonemic awareness training, what we just did together, is foundational for reading development. The National Reading Panel report in 2000 made it very clear that the impact of training students to become aware of units of sound has a large effect on their understanding of phonemic awareness. Immediately after training, the effect size was really large, 0.86. But more importantly, it was sustainable with an effect size of 0.73 long after the intervention was given. The findings of the meta-analyses, and I directly quote this because this is really powerful, the findings of the meta-analyses show that phonological and phonemic awareness training benefits the processes involving word reading, pseudo word reading, which is non-word reading, a great measure of students' decoding skills, as well as text reading in general. It's also beneficial for spelling in normally progressing readers and those below second grade, as well as beginners who are at risk for developing reading challenges. Most significantly, phonological and phonemic awareness is a canary in the coal mine. It is an early predictor of reading difficulty, which really underscores the importance of early literacy screening and intervention for students. The written code is based on the relationship between sounds and their printed representations. This brings us to big idea number 2. Speech sounds are represented in letters or groups of letters. This is called the alphabetic principle. I'm using the image of the chicken or the egg because we often hear the term letter sound correspondence, which implies that letters precede sounds. Instead, we want to shift to sound precedes symbol or letter. The sound is represented by the letter or group of letters. Therefore, the term sound-symbol correspondence is a more accurate representation of the reading process. This brings us to big idea number 3. Language is natural, reading is not. I'd like to start by talking a little bit more about the human brain. The human brain is wired for language. However, the written code is a human invention. What's amazing is that the brain adapts to make reading possible. The brain uses the systems in place to encode speech sounds into their written orthographic representations. Neuroimaging has shown us that these representations are stored in the left fusiform gyrus, the visual word form area of the brain. Training students to become aware of the phonemic information in spoken language makes it possible for those students to begin mapping or encoding the visual information into the word form area of the brain. This is an unconscious process. These words can be then retrieved automatically from memory. These words become sight words. Kilpatrick, our expert on phonemic awareness, tells us that there are two skills that are absolutely required for reading. While phonemic awareness is a process, is a continuum from simple to complex, these two skills are essential. The first is phoneme blending, the ability to take sounds, blend them together for phonic decoding. The other is phoneme analysis. This is the process of remembering words by analyzing them or looking at them closely. It is the process that yields orthographic mapping, the unitized pronunciation of the word in the visual form. And this is for automaticity. There's no longer the need to decode when words have been orthographically mapped. And that brings us to the work of Linnea Airy. Linnea Airy's theory of orthographic mapping tells us how words become permanently encoded or locked into memory. Linnea Airy's work helps us understand that when an early reader works to decode or unlock the sounds in the words they're reading, they are using phonemic blending. For example, the visual representation of the word cat, C-A-T, is matched with its phonemic representation, k-at, and blended to read the word cat. That process of phonemic blending is required for encoding or locking that pronunciation into print within the reader's brain for automatic retrieval. What's most fascinating is that even words with irregular sound symbol correspondences can also be mapped. For example, the word said. Said has three phonemes, s, e, d. But the spelling of the medial sound in said is irregular, as AI is the spelling for the sound e in this word. Yet still, the brain can unitize the word said, even with its irregular medial spelling pattern. It is through phoneme analysis that a reader moves from word parts to unitized wholes to read words such as the word said. And that is what Linnea Airy theorized. In summary, the tightly woven strands in Scarborough's reading rope, those in the word recognition portion of the rope, are threaded throughout this presentation. Automatic word reading requires one to become aware of the representation of sound in spoken language. With that awareness, individuals can begin manipulating those sounds for reading and spelling. Automatic word reading is possible when students understand the relationship between speech and print. Automatic word reading is the product of instruction and ample opportunity to work with sounds, match sounds with their printed representations, and blend sounds to unlock those encoded words. Phonic decoding is the vehicle for students to become increasingly automatic so that every word becomes a permanent, unitized whole, locked in the brain by its pronunciation. The English code is a sound and meaning-based system. Sound awareness is like the mortar, strengthening the foundation for skilled reading. And phonemic awareness makes this possible. So my sources for this presentation include the work of Linnea Airy and David Kilpatrick. I referenced the National Reading Panel as well as a resource for anyone interested in learning more about phonemic awareness from the Reading Rockets website. I thank you for your time today. If you have any questions or if you would like to connect, please don't hesitate to reach out. I can be contacted at Bay Path University via email. Thank you so much for being with me today.